It's time for the final race of the day in the Euroformula Open Championship in the fifth meeting of the season from Paul RICARD. We have one final encounter of 15 laps of racing, or 30 minutes, whichever comes first. This is our second top six reverse grid race. This one taken from the results of qualifying. And for the second time this weekend, it is the debutant Preston Lambert who will be starting on reverse grid pole position. But breaking news from the stewards room, Timothy Kaharczyk with a 10-place grid penalty after receiving his third reprimand of the season after a cool-down lap incident where he ran into the back of race 2 winner Fernando Barrichello. So he starts from the back of the grid. It's Chris Stevens and George Morgan here in the commentary box, going straight into the formation lap to get this 15-lap race underway.
Yes, Chris, we are back here at Paul RICARD for the final time this weekend. And in the Euroformula Open, the spice continues with the top three in the championship within 2 points.
Let's run you through what's happened so far. Timothy Kaharczyk started on pole position for race 1. Yesterday it was Yevon David alongside him, but a great launch from the pole sitter, and he managed to get the whole shot into the first corner. A challenge from Yevon David going into the first corner, but nothing doing down there. Contact for Michael Shin with Ed Pearson, the championship leader, going round at Scene corner, and it will be nil points for the South Korean racer, costing him the lead in the championship. Battles further down the order as Fernando Barrichello chased a podium finish, would come up short in the end. Dominant display from Timothy Kaharczyk as he took his fourth victory of the season. Race 2 saw Preston Lambert starting on reverse grid pole position, and it was a good launch ahead of Fernando Barrichello. Michael Shin having to come up from the rear of the field as well after a DNF in race 1. Yevon David was all over the curbing on the inside of the first corner. Preston Lambert leading the field, but it was contact between Yevon David and Jose Garfias. Yevon David finishing outside of the points in that one. And then this sensational maneuver for Fernando Barrichello around the outside of the virage bend door would give him the lead and eventually his second victory in the championship. So going into this final race of the weekend, it is just 2 points that separate Yevon David, Timothy Kaharczyk and Michael Shin going into this final race of the weekend. So the driver's already on the formation lap to get this final race of the weekend underway, and it will be Preston Lambert who lines up on pole position for the second time this weekend. Ed Pearson from Nielsen Racing starting on the front row of the grid ahead of Jose Garfias and race 2 winner Fernando Barrichello. Further down we have Yevon David, the new championship leader, ahead of Diego Della Torre. Everett Stack goes from 7th place, and then Michael Shin, the pre-event championship leader. Then we have Finn Green and Gino Trapper, another debutant this weekend in the Nielsen car. But at the back of the grid, 10-place grid penalty after his third reprimand of the season for Timothy Kaharczyk. So far this weekend, we have had championship drama for all three of our championship contenders. Contact for Michael Shin in race 1, contact for Yevon David in race 2, and now this grid penalty for Timothy Kaharczyk. But he does still have 15 laps to try and do something about that.
He certainly does, and I would not write him off. I'd hesitate to write him off, in fact. And, any time could be Timothy time, and maybe race 3 could be his. But we'll wait and see. Obviously, Fernando Barrichello launching Motor Park higher up in terms of the team's championship, taking their 400th win in the Euroformula Open.
Yeah, it certainly was a milestone victory this morning, not only for Fernando, but for the Motor Park team, ever present here in the Euroformula Open Championship. But with stiff competition from Nielsen Racing and BVM Racing, especially this weekend. It was a double podium for the Italian outfit this morning. We get ready for race 3 then, the final race of the weekend. We're racing again in Paul RICARD, and it's a stall from Ed Pearson on the front row of the grid, and not a great start from Preston Lambert either. Pearson eventually gets going, but it's Jose Garfias who should have the whole shot into the first corner. Fernando Barrichello stuffing it on the inside as well there of Preston Lambert. Pearson goes over the runoff area, but it is the Mexican Jose Garfias who leads. It's side by side for second place with Barrichello on the outside of the pole sitter Preston Lambert, and these two have already gone side by side today. Barrichello has to take to the escape road with Preston Lambert getting very, very close there. Yevon David up into 4th position already. Barrichello emerged side by side there with Lambert, but tucks back in behind eventually.
Yeah, managing to come back out onto the track, and certainly no collisions met as he rejoined from Barrichello, now sat obviously where he is in 3rd. Obviously Lambert now moving up, inheriting 2nd place back with Garfius now leading the way. Further back a squabble. Timek Harchik already above 2 cars right now, looking to make it 3 as he tries to dodge past Gino Trapper, the other rookie that has only just joined this weekend, as now we see them come through and the cones get lifted up as a car went wide coming through out of the Mistral chicane, and that looks like another that looks to be I believe Ed Pearson. Oh no, Finn Green, I think it might have been. Yes, it was. Finn Green running wide, coming through the Mistral chicane.
So Garfius leads the way. Then Preston Lambert, then Barrichello, Yevon David, Michael Shin up into 5th position there as well. He's just dispatched of Diego Della Torre. And Yevon David up on 2 wheels. He just tried to make the move on Barrichello there, run out wide, and now he's going to lose out to his title rival, Michael Shin, who goes around the outside of the Virage Bend door. Remember, only 2 points separating Yevon David, Michael Shin, and Timur Kaharchek in the championship. Kaharchek so far has only made up 1 place to 10th after his grid spot, and Michael Shin with a dive on the inside of FIFO Barrichello for 3rd position. So Shin moving forwards, then Yevon David trying to take advantage of that one. It is all go in the first lap here of the Euroformula Open Championship as Barrichello looks to try and retake that place. Shin has to defend to the inside. David's got no way through to make a move there, and nothing doing in the end. So it's Shin up into 3rd position ahead of Barrichello, ahead of Yevon David.
Of course, Barrichello taking his 2nd win of his Euroformula career. Obviously, the first one came back at Austria in wet conditions, and now once more, first one since then, arrived in race 2 earlier on today, and now determined to stay ahead of Yevon David. There's Timek Harchik. Did actually manage to gain a few places at the start. Has now made his way through towards P9. He had a couple more than that as well. Of course, went side by side with Gino Trapper on the run down through towards the Mistral chicane. That is where it came unstuck, and he dropped down again behind the 2 cars that he did overtake. So now he's on a voyage of, again, another recovery, as now Garfius now continues to run down through towards the chicane, now in the middle of the Mistral, being chased still by Preston Lambert, who once again, I have to say, is impressing me. We speak about the carbon clutch system and how new drivers do struggle with it. It hasn't really phased Preston Lambert all that much. Didn't stall on the line this time. Wasn't the strongest getaway. Obviously, Garfius plumbing for it. Timek now on the move as well. Barrichello and David going side by side, coming through Scene Corner. And Yevon David will now move ahead of Barrichello for 4th place. So now the motorpark car, driven by the Sri Lankan, on the move, knows that he has to try and attack Michael Shin inside the top 3 to at least levy the advantage in the championship more in his favour, as now it's wheel to wheel again. This time Diego Della Torre, the Mexican against the Brazilian, as they go side by side, coming through the latter sector here and now as they peel on through. Barrichello with enough in his locker to keep Della Torre at bay.
Barrichello holding on to that 5th place spot just about for now. Got Everett Stack in that battle as well. It's the battle of the North and South Americas there, with the Brazilian, the American and the Mexican in there as well. Preston Lambert here, only 0.4 of a second away from Jose Garfius, the race leader at the end of lap 2, and lapping slightly quicker on that previous lap, but it was Michael Shin, the best out there. Diego Della Torre with a problem. I can only imagine there was contact down at turn 1 with either Fernando Barrichello or Everett Stack. They were fighting over position, but either way, that is Della Torre seemingly out of this race.
Yeah, it doesn't look positive for him, unfortunately. Further back, the Nielsen cars going to work, obviously with a slightly different livery than usual. Let's have a look now at what could have happened. Everett Stack at the inside of Diego Della Torre. So the 2 motorpark cars meeting, and the front left, or front right, should I say, on Everett Stack. I think just meeting that front left and rear left on Diego Della Torre's car, just pivoting him at an angle up in the air on one side of the car. Yellow flag up at turn 2 as well as a consequence, as now we see Preston Lambert still plugging on the back of Jose Garfius. I've been really impressed with Lambert this weekend, I've got to say, given that it is his first venture into F3, well, proper venture into F3 standard machinery, really, in the Dallara 324. Currently being pursued now by Michael Shin, who obviously has ambitions to recover after the retirement in race 1, after the suspension damage coming in towards the Bousset, and BVM took full advantage of that with Timek's win that opened up the weekend. And can I just say, Timek Harchik, now 6th place, has already gained 5 places in the opening few laps that we have already had.
Yeah, helped a little bit with Delatour's issue, and of course Pearson not getting off the line. But Lambert hounding the back of Garfias in a very similar way to how Barrichello was hounding him throughout the race this morning. So for the lead then, effectively at the end of lap number 3, it is Garfias, Lambert, Shin and David, separated by 1.6 seconds out there. Then about 1.7 back to Barrichello and Kahacek. Don't count him out as well to join that lead fight. Coming up from the back of the grid after that 10-place grid penalty. It was such a bizarre incident at the end of race 2, where it was at this point in the circuit where Barrichello was running slowly on the cooldown lap, and Kahacek just arrived and hit the back of him, and we can see a replay at the start. Cars swarming everywhere trying to get around Ed Pearson, who hadn't gone anywhere, and this is sadly another opportunity that has escaped Pearson to score big, I'm afraid. And you can see the reaction from the team. Ayrton Simmons in the middle of the picture there, the driver coach for the Nielsen team. Cannot believe their luck. They had a really great opportunity here, especially for the win, and that was Barrichello taking the escape road at turns 3 and 4 and rejoining at 5. This is the moment for Yevon David, way up on 4 wheels there, in fact, as he tried to make that move. Here's Michael Shin around the outside for second place on Preston Lambert. Very nearly made that one stick, but the American under big pressure here is through on the inside. At Labuse goes Michael Shin, and in a position to take the championship lead here as well, although Preston Lambert will not take that line down, tries to find a way through on the inside but can't do it. And so Michael Shin now up into second place. His sights will now be very firmly set on Jose Garfias.
Yeah, he seems to follow well though, Lambert. I don't think this will be the last we see of him in his battle against Michael Shin, though. Shin with a point to prove here after the first race that went awry, as we mentioned earlier on with the DNF. Yevon David also coming into this as well, but also there's nothing between Yevon David and Timek Kahacek right now. 2 cars running off wide, coming through Pont Corner, and I'm just looking there was a Nielsen Racing car getting squirrely.
One spun round in the runoff area at the final corner.
There it is.
It's one of the Nielsen cars. Is that Gino Trapper? I wonder. No, it is not. It was Ed Pearson. Oh, it just goes from bad to worse for Ed, doesn't it? It's Gino Trapper was side by side there with Everett Stack for 7th position, the Argentinian going through, and it's contact between teammates, I'm afraid, with Gino Trapper, who has not been afraid in his debut weekend to really muscle his way by the guy who has been leading that team so far this year, but that has gone into overflow.
Well, it was those two, wasn't it, in race 1 earlier on in the weekend, as well. Race 2, I do apologise. Yeah, of course, race 2 it was earlier today, in fact. Fastest lap taken by Timek Kahacek, who's now arriving on the scene. Now starting to turn up the heat now, but in turn, it's now Michael Shin with the purple first sector here right now with a 31.724. So you're talking 2.5 tenths of a second improvement here on Michael Shin, as now a move up the inside from Everett Stack here on Gino Trapper, coming through now in towards the Mistral chicane. This time around, Trapper having a look either way on the back of the motor park. Delara 324. Gino Trapper looking for the run now, coming down towards Scene Corner. He's not afraid to get his elbows out, is Gino Trapper, so will surely, I would imagine, take Stack all the way. Now moving around the outside, Trapper unable to find the leverage, unable to find the line. He will remain behind, and it will be Everett Stack now holding on to P7 as they come into sector 3 proper. And look at this, Yevon David on the back of Preston Lambert as they fight over the last podium place in P3. As now Jose Garfias takes them through down towards Pont Corner. David looking all over the back of Lambert, who's already lost out already to Michael Shin. Defensive, ultra defensive there from Lambert, really getting the elbows at himself, and David was left down in 4th, unable to get past.
Yevon needs to be careful. That's where he had the contact this morning that broke his front wing and really reignited the championship battle down there. Oh, Preston, pick a side. He's picked the wrong one because Yevon David's gone through on the inside, and then Lambert taking a very bumpy ride over the escape road. Now you can't try and fight this one back, Preston. I'm afraid you're going to have to give this one up. He's not doing it very easily. Eventually, Yevon David's gone round. Contact once again for the Sri Lankan, and that was so unnecessary, and there is a puncture on the rear right-hand corner. I'm not sure Yevon's picked it up yet. He will do now, and yeah, fighting to keep that car in control. And that was, it was just a little bit clumsy there, wasn't it? And Preston Lambert with damage as well. So that suspension damage on the front corner, front wing askew there as well. So two big contenders. Of course, that has now put Timothy Kahacek onto the podium. Let's see it unfold again. So it's Preston weaving down the straight. Yevon David gets it on the inside. And frankly, for me, at this point, the move is done.
Yeah.
Preston, at this point, I've been very impressed with him, but when he rejoined, he should not have been fighting Yevon.
Yeah, no, I think he should have backed off, Chris. I think you're absolutely right. I think obviously just a bit overzealous coming through turn one, obviously committing too much, but already the move was made by Yevon David. Ultimately, the contact then coming in onto the curb and straight into the side of Yevon David.
He's lost it into the... Yevon left him all the room in the world there. He's done nothing wrong with that, and I'm afraid Preston's got to take responsibility on that one. That's the reaction from the BVM garage. And, well, of course, more great news for Michael Shin and Timothy Kahacek. Not only has Kahacek gained 2 places in that, but Yevon David, the championship leader, once again, damaged car, puncture, down in 10th place. At best, he's going to be scoring 1 point in this.
And now Kahacek's got clean air, effectively in front to coast him up to Michael Shin. He may not have been fastest over the last lap, but bear in mind, he was in amongst all that, fracas that we had over the P3 position. So now, having that being concluded, he went purple in Sector 3, whereas Shin may have been faster. It's still in the pocket here of Kahacek, who certainly has the pace in his locker. Already a winner this weekend, made it win number 4 to match the tally entered in by Yevon David. But if he wins this race, it'll be win number 5, and he'll have the most race wins so far this season.
Well, got Jose Garfias at the moment going for a 3rd victory of the season, which would match the tally of not Timothy Kahacek, sorry, nor Yevon David. That would just be 3rd, but actually it would surpass Michael Shin in terms of the win numbers. There we saw Yevon David in pit lane, and if he does go back out, it will only be for the 1 solitary point. There we can see the front wing damage for Preston Lambert. And you can see this is not exactly a very well-rehearsed procedure, because there's no pit stops in Euroformula Open Championship races. And so generally, if you have to come into the pits anyway, that's pretty much race done. You're basically going out for testing at that point, because you'll end up losing an awful lot of time as a result of it. And he's about to go a lap down here with Jose Garfias making his way around the last couple of corners. 0.8 of a second ahead of Michael Shin. And let's see what the gap is this time around. Last time around, it was quicker for Garfias. Oh, that's Preston Lambert out of the car and out of the race, I am afraid. So this is the reason why, again, a moment here for Preston Lambert, slews into the side of Yevon David, who was basically heading off the racetrack at that point as well. Had he committed to it a little bit more, he'd have just survived that moment. But it's now 0.9 of a second between Garfias and Shin. He took 0.2 of a second out of the race leader last time around, but the fastest driver of anyone is Timothy Kahacek.
Yeah, and he's in the clear air, Chris. This is the result of it. Obviously getting out of the madness that was occurring further up, obviously between David and obviously his teammates, Preston Lambert. With that concluded now, it's given him clairvoyance to certainly get on the attack, but ultimately Michael Shin and Jose Garfias in the immediate are going to be the 2 concerns right now. Obviously Garfias putting in a fantastic opening lap to immediately take the race lead away from Preston Lambert off the line, and now we'll look to try and take this home and hosed. Like you so rightly say, a 3rd win in prospect should he manage to take the checkered flag first ahead of Shin and of course Timothy Kahacek. But Kahacek currently 3.6 away from our current race leader. Michael Shin now 2.7 ahead of Kahacek as it stands. So that's the gap between Ps2 and Ps3 as they come through Bousset. Still a long way to go. 8 laps remain here in race 3 in the Euroformula Open Championship. And again, this throws another curveball in the championship, with Yevon David sacrificing further points, with both Shin and Kahacek scoring.
And scoring well at the moment as well. 2nd and 3rd, of course. So how many changes in the lead of the championship have we had this weekend?
Quite a few.
One or two?
Shin arrived in, obviously the leader coming into race 1.
Yeah,
and
then it was
that ultimately
Yevon.
changed with Yevon
And
after
now
the retirement.
It'll change again. Okay, so just the 2. Feels like a lot more.
Could become 3 if Kaharchik beats Shin to the punch. So, you know, you could have all 3 title contenders on the top of the podium at one weekend.
Yeah.
So that is truly unreal when you think about it. Another fastest lap from Kaharchik, and that's a monstrous 1:55.970 after a purple final sector. That, incidentally, a couple...
Oh,
my goodness
problem.
me,
That's
Shin.
Michael Shin!
Michael Shin, the championship leader, coming into the weekend, and the front wing is broken.
What did you say, George?
Oh, my goodness. I can't believe it. Michael Shin off the track.
How was that happen? Has the front wing just failed there, or did he damage it on the curb? It just absolutely went. Extraordinary situation there, and now it's buried underneath the car. Luckily, it's already behind one of those front wheels, but hopefully it doesn't get caught up behind another, because then you lose all the steering.
Well, now ultimately, as it stands, we will have 3 different championship leaders through the course of the Paul Ricard weekend.
That is extraordinary.
It just came loose on the track.
I can't see him really doing anything
End plate
wrong there. That is just a front wing failure. That is extraordinary. I know he's on the runoff area technically there,
yeah,
but everyone does that to try and maximise the entry of the corner. That is extraordinary. I have not seen anything like that. Not in this championship, and to have what I can only assume is a structural failure. Like that,
but it just seemed to be that the front...
or like a loose nut or something, you know, tying the front wing on.
It seemed like the front plates that obviously attach it to the chassis just fell. We saw the piece fly off, but I think that ultimately only happened because it dropped onto the floor and then the chassis just rolled over the top of it. It just flew over. But now this leaves Kaharchik in a great position now with second in his pocket and 3.7 away from Garfield.
So that surface is running. It is very abrasive.
Yeah,
incredible. That's the whole point of it. Because when you spin off the road, it's supposed to bring you to a controlled stop better than a gravel trap will or something. So I don't know if we're talking about vibrations there, unsettling thing, because it's not the whole nose where it attaches to the chassis. It is just the wing element, isn't it? So that is absolutely extraordinary.
This is disastrous for Motorpark because obviously these are their 2 mainstay championship contenders, with Shin obviously coming out of the Hungaroring weekend with the championship lead. That then fell off and went the way of Yevon David, of course, coming into this race. And now it's Kaharchik with the championship lead in the palm of his hand. So again, it goes back to BVM. And bear in mind, Kaharchik arrived into the weekend quite a ways off, down in 3rd. Finn Greed has just taken the purple first sector in, but he's managed to clamber back all those points through each and every single race we have had from race 1 here now to race 3.
And he started 11th in this race as well.
He did.
And he's only 3.7 off the race lead. Extraordinary stuff. This weekend has just completely turned around Timothy Kaharchik's championship hopes. And yeah, as you say, he was 30 points back from Michael Shin, who was championship leader going into this weekend. And now he's going to leave here with the championship lead. That is extraordinary.
With a 3rd place finish in race 2, ultimately now as we see Michael Shin rejoin the circuit. 3rd place finish, obviously so far it's been 100% podium record here at Paul Ricard so far here for Kaharchik. It looks set to continue and he will come out of it should he reach the checkered flag. We don't get any more mysterious moments out on circuit for our drivers. Kaharchik will be back on the podium, of course, albeit 2nd, and that will mean that he will touch all steps of the podium this weekend as well, with Garfius now setting a personal best in the final sector. Garfius doing a great job, mustering in a 56.0, but as I say that, a purple final sector for Timothy Kaharchik sends him into the 55s. So he is gaining on Garfius, but by my reckoning here, Chris, 3.7 defined, he gained only approximately 0.02 of a second over the last lap. He needs a lot more than that to battle in against 3.7.
Yeah, no, we've got 4.5 laps to go, and so Garfius has got this one pretty sorted, going for his 3rd win of the season. And his 2nd podium finish of the weekend as well, after finishing 3rd in race 1 yesterday. And here is a look at our race leader, Jose Garfius, the young Mexican racer, the 20-year-old from San Luis Potosi. And 3.7 seconds still to the good. This is how it would stand in the championship. 16-point advantage for Timothy Kachacek and 17 ahead of Michael Shin. That is absolutely extraordinary. 30 points back from Michael Shin going into the weekend, leaving with a 16-point advantage. That is a bigger swing than election night.
It certainly is, and the thing is, this then presents a very interesting complexion when we head to the Red Bull Ring in the not too distant future, obviously in a few weeks' time.
I can't think about that right now, John. I'm still processing everything I've just seen.
Well, I mean, and on top of this, a great opportunity now for Fernando Barrichello to nestle in another podium as well. Obviously sat third at the moment after his victory in race 2, and it's set to be a super Sunday here for Fernando Barrichello as he looks to obviously launch his way up through the championship. I believe currently sat 5th actually in the championship as it stands. Fernando Barrichello, obviously we'll get confirmation at the end of the race, obviously as we conclude today's festivities, but it certainly certainly hasn't given us much to talk about. It's given us plenty to talk about. Timothy Kachacek, though, at the moment 3.6 away. Another personal best for Kachacek over the last lap. It was 1:55.965, so again mustering faster times than Garfius, but again it's not by much. Garfius with a 56.056 of his own, very much a copycat really of the prior lap that we had, but these two are advancing their charge ahead of Fernando Barrichello by some margin. It's 6.9 between Barrichello and Kachacek, with a 10.5 second gap between Barrichello and Garfius at the moment. But when we talk about Jose Garfius, a young man who has certainly risen through the realms of single-seaters, as we take a look at a slow-mo of Kachacek, of course, he's come away from GB3, where he last took part in single-seater racing, now moving into the Euroformula Open Championship and taking to it now firmly as a duck to water. And it does sometimes take drivers half a season to find their feet. For Kachacek, it certainly seems that is the case. Was trying to get used to the carbon clutch system. Many drivers have suffered with that. Doesn't seem to have phased his teammates, of course, this weekend, Preston Lambert, but obviously other things phasing him here in race 3. But ultimately here for Jose Garfius, coming into this season, debuting last year at Red Bull Ring, funny enough. It'll be a full year, I suppose, anniversary when we go back there in 3 weeks or so's time. And, of course, having his own experience in the FIA Formula 3 Championship as the Euroformula continues to try and grow potential talents for the future in the world of single-seaters, rising through the ranks of FIA Formula 3 and FIA Formula 2.
So, lead gap very stable at the moment. It's 3 laps to go then, as Garfius ticks off another one. Gap still hovering around 3.6 seconds. Kachacek in a race of his own now. Barrichello on course for a second podium finish of the weekend after his race 2 victory this morning. We have seen some real championship drama here this weekend, and subplots have evolved and storylines have changed. Heroes and villains switching as quick as we can count in this extraordinary tale of the weekend. Absolutely brilliant.
Poor RICARD certainly won't go unforgotten.
No, it will not. Good luck putting the highlights package together for this one, guys.
Goodness me.
It has been brilliant out there. Everett Stack on course for the rookie class victory, by the way, of course, with the demise of both Preston Lambert and Yevon David. Everett is the full-time rookie driver in this championship, with Gino Trapper and Preston Lambert making wildcard appearances. We're not 100% sure on if Gino's going to be sticking around for the remainder of the season. Bearing in mind he is contesting Spanish F4 this year as well. And in fact, I know that Nielsen are looking for drivers during the summer break to go and test their cars over the course of the next coming weeks, owing to some pretty lofty ambitions that the Corby-based team has over the coming months as they progress in their first year of this single-seater program.
Couldn't get much of a better start than what they did at Portimao at the beginning of the season, with the victory obviously for Ed Pearson, but they'll be looking for more of those, no question.
But this will be the first weekend George, where we haven't had a Nielsen car on the podium, which is quite extraordinary to say. Of course, was expecting one for Pearson, starting on the front row of the grid, but the stall rather put a rather rapid end to that hope. You see them in the background there, fairly closely matched on the circuit at the moment. Gino Trapper, Ed Pearson, and Finn Green. And Finn Green and then Ed Pearson, excuse me. It's Pearson trying to get back around Green and into 6th position. Remember, it was a spin for Pearson after contact with his teammate Gino Trapper. Hopefully that doesn't mean he won't get invited back, because it has been not quite the same lofty... Oh, hello, Finn Green off the road, outbraking himself there. But while Trapper hasn't created the same lofty heights of like Podium with Preston Lambert and all that, but he has shown an awful lot of fortitude in this opening weekend.
There's no fear there, I have to say, on part of Gennaro Trapper. I think that's what we could certainly, muster out of it. And a lot of what he was pulling off was quintessentially box office earlier on in the weekend in terms of some of the moves that he was making. And, not afraid to take the fight to some seasoned Euroformula drivers that have been here and done it. Obviously, Pearson's like Garfias, who leads this race at the moment, coming in at Red Bull Ring last season. So credit to Gennaro Trapper. Very few drivers come in their first weekend and really get running out of the blocks. Of course, you can add Preston Lambert to that list as well, based on what we've already seen, as now we're seeing some side-by-sides here with Diego Della Torre past Finn Green as they look to contest over P7 at the moment, and the Mexican swiftly moving through past the Nielsen Racing driver. So Diego Della Torre on a voyage of recovery as well, after having his own fair share of issues earlier on in the race, and now recovering. Here's the move again, coming in towards Bousset. A look up the inside from Della Torre, and past Finn Green he goes, and up into 7th place.
Final lap has started for Jose Garfias. He's less than 5.8 kilometers away from his 3rd victory of the season. A lightning start for the Mexican from the 2nd row of the grid. That saw him take the lead fairly early on, and has just held on to the advantage. Lost half a second to Timothy Kahacek on that previous lap, but the gap still around 2.8 seconds. Half a lap to go. He shouldn't be in any particular bother. And Kahacek will make it 3 consecutive podium finishes for the weekend. Victory and 3rd place finishes so far here in Paul Ricard. And Fernando Barrichello due to make it back-to-back podiums, but Jose Garfias, after a difficult start to this season, we thought he'd be coming out of the blocks a little bit more swinging, bearing in mind he did a few rounds at the end of last year, but now we are starting to see the Garfias that we were anticipating here, with victories so far in the last 2 meetings of the season in Hockenheim and in Hungaroring, and having already finished on the podium so far this weekend. This is going to be a fruitful points haul for Jose Garfias as he looks to raise his position in the championship. For the 3rd time, it's Jose Garfias who takes the victory here in the Euroformula Open Championship. Race 3 in the Castellet goes to Garfias. It's 3 podiums in 3 races for Timothy Kahacek, and Fernando Barrichello will make it 2 in 1 day, following on from race 2 victory this morning. It's 3rd position for the Brazilian.
Brilliant result for Jose Garfias, 3rd win of the campaign. Brilliant stuff as well from Timothy Kahacek, moving up from P11 at the very back, fighting his way to P2. Yet another podium, touching all steps on the podium this weekend as well. Will firmly take hold of the championship lead, 16 points ahead, of course, ahead of Yevon David and Michael Shin, both of whom suffering extensive damage, with Yevon David taking the puncture, Michael Shin with the front wing loss as well. This was the move from Diego Della Torre up the inside of Ed Pearson as well. Just a little swapper there from Pearson coming through turn 11 and therefore losing out. So Della Torre getting past 2 Nielsen cars in the closing stages and into P6. So Garfias on top, Barrichello yet another return to the podium as well. Everett Stack, highest placed rookie here as well, finishing 4th ahead of Gennaro Trapper, who finishes 5th ahead of Diego Della Torre in 6th, and Pearson and Green line up in 7th and 8th with Michael Shin, Yevon David, Preston Lambert, of course, out of the race.
It's worth reminding people as well, Timothy Kahacek, new championship leader by 16 points after dramas for Michael Shin and Yevon David, who are yet to cross the timing line. We are anticipating them to do so because, well, Michael Shin at the very least did get back out into the race, and I believe that Yevon David did as well. Yes, he did, but a minute and 10 seconds behind the next car. So Michael Shin across the line in 9th place, closely followed by Yevon David. So it's a 3rd win of the season for Jose Garfias. 2nd place for Timothy Kahacek gives him the championship lead after podiums in all 3 races so far this year. Fernando Barrichello makes it 2 in 2 in one day. Everett Stack taking the rookie class win ahead of Gino Trapper, Diego Della Torre, Ed Pearson and Finn Green. But dramas for championship contenders Michael Shin and Yevon David. Front wing issues for Michael, contact for Yevon David. We lost Preston Lambert, who was involved in that contact with Yevon, and that has really spiced things up in terms of the championship. So we can give you those standings now. Confirmation then it is Timothy Kahacek by 17 points to Yevon David, owing to the fastest lap bonus points there as well, with Yevon David and Michael Shin 17 and 18 points back. Jose Garfias moves up to 4th in the standings, still ahead of Fernando Barrichello, Pearson and Stack down there as well, with Della Torre in 8th place. Well, we are firmly into the second half of the season now. It's Jose Garfias who's going to have the nice feeling of winning going into the summer break. We're back in September at the Red Bull Ring, but maybe the biggest smile is going to be on Timothy Kahacek's face.
And Giuseppe Mazzotti as well.
Exactly, very true. Actually, before we get into that, I'm very curious to see what celebration Jose Garfias goes for, because we've seen 2 great ones so far this weekend from Fernando and, of course, from Timik. So let's see what Jose goes for. We've seen the, I'm not sure what to read, the boat dance meme guy. You know the
world's most popular meme.
You know the exactly. You know the one I'm talking about. You've all seen it. Well, I haven't actually because I'm old, but and then Fernando with just the sheer emotion. Let's see what Jose goes for.
You know, see, speaking of Jose on the Friday, as simple as you like, brilliant stuff.
Old school,
world
classic,
world class there from Jose Garfias. Spoke to him on the weekend on Friday, opening up the weekend here at Paul Ricard, and I asked him, I said, "What are your expectations for this weekend?" He just said to me, "Win." And he has here in race 3, which obviously will go a long way to his championship. But this man, with Giuseppe Mazzotti, good job. A landmark weekend here for Timothy Kahacek, arguably one of his very best, and for good reason. Obviously, his best performance, I think, this weekend. Of course, since Spa, of course, he took 2 wins back at Spa in race 2 and race 3, with a 2nd place in race 1. But he's touched all steps of the podium this time. And, of course, Garfias now being met by, of course, CEO of GT Sport Organisation, Jesus Pereira, and, of course, Alfredo Filipponi will be giving him an interview very shortly. But first and foremost, he has to weigh in. A few words of wisdom shared between the BVM engineers, as well as Timothy Kahacek, as well as Giuseppe Mazzotti on the far left of your screen. Of course, team boss of the BVM racing team. And another podium for this young man, Fernando Barrichello, all smiles. And I'm sure Rubens will be watching on with great delight wherever he may be across the globe.
Yes, racing in Stock Car Brazil this weekend. So I'm sure he's got the opportunity to catch up between races. In fact, I caught Fernando shortly after the win and I said, "Have you spoken to your dad yet?" And he said, "Yeah, we've already been on FaceTime crying at each other." So great stuff. And it's another podium here for Fernando Barrichello, 3rd place in race 3 here in Paul Ricard. With 2nd place, Timothy Kahacek retakes the championship lead for BVM Racing. A fantastic weekend for the Polish driver. But for the 3rd time this season, it's Jose Garfias on top. Let's hear from him.
Jose Garfias, well, it's now customary because you win one race at least at every round, almost.
Yeah, it's nice. It's becoming the tradition a little bit. Hope for many more for the rest of the year. Yeah, it was a good race. We had good pace. I think already from race 2 on the used tire we were really strong. Just had that incident that was a bit disappointing that the result didn't come to the end. But we made it up for it. The car was great in race 3 and we managed to take the victory.
And the best way to go back to Mexico to relax a bit.
Absolutely. With a smile on my face to go back home for the summer. Really happy.
Al grito de guerra.
Sí, señor.
Vamos.
Let's try and unravel this one then. So Preston Lambert started on pole position, but Ed Pearson from the front row of the grid didn't go anywhere. That gave Jose Garfias the best run down towards the first corner, the inside line favouring the Mexican as he went through into the lead of the race. Fernando Barrichello tried to show his nose in that battle. He came under pressure from Michael Shin, who dived through for third place early on in the race. Yevon David also putting his hat into the ring there as well, eventually making this manoeuvre into Scene Corner to follow his title rival through up into fourth. Close battles between the Motorpark teammates, slightly too close as Diego Della Torre was pitched round by Everett Stack into turn 2. Della Torre continued on his way. Michael Shin and Preston Lambert battled over second place. Shin eventually putting this manoeuvre on the American debutant to take second place away from the rookie who has been very impressive right up until this moment, losing it into the hotel chicane and pitching round the championship leader. And that put him out of contention as well. It also put Michael Shin out of contention after a bizarre front wing failure for the South Korean. None of that mattered to Jose Garfias. He took his third victory of the season and going into the summer break with the best feeling of all.
Bravo. Good boy. Good boy.
So to the podium then, the final podium of the weekend for Fernando Barrichello. It's a third appearance on the rostrum here. He'll be making his way out there very shortly. There he is. What has been probably his best day in the Euroformula Open
Best
Championship.
weekend.
With obviously, just looking at today specifically with the win and the third place finish. Our new championship leader there for Timothy Kahacek in second place.
One of the most dramatic point swings in history,
It
I think.
certainly has been, yeah. Remember, 30 points back going into this weekend, leaving with a 16-point advantage. Jose Garfias onto the top step of the podium.
And an impressive ratio over the last 3 races. Jose Garfias 3 wins in his last 3 rounds in the championship, so he's taken 1 around over the last 3 occasions. So fantastic effort for Jose. Obviously, we'll look to try and follow that through to Red Bull Ring. Everett Stack, rookie winner again too.
So he takes the spot on the right-hand side as well. Great result for him. But now we'll have the Mexican national anthem. A magnificent performance from Jose Garfias once again, really starting to find his stride in this championship. One wonders, had he had this stride at the beginning of the season, would we be talking about a 4-way title fight between Shin, David, Kahacek and Garfias? He is 4th in the championship, of course, but maybe just ever so slightly out of the overall contention as Timothy Kahacek collects his 2nd place trophy, his 3rd trophy of the weekend.
I think one thing we have proven, I think as the Cosworth representative hands over the winning trophy to Jose Garfias, I mean, anything can happen. And I mean, Garfias may be a little ways out, but You never know. A few more of those that we saw today through the course of the final few rounds. It could yet cause a little bit of a twist as Everett Stack now lays claim to the Rookie Winners' Trophy.
401st win for Motorpark, by
True.
the way, just in case you were wondering.
Keeping score?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to keep track of all of them now. So the posing for the photographs, and we will celebrate with the champagne. Now, that's all from the Euroformula Open Championship. We go for the summer break. We'll be back on the 6th of September in the Styrian Mountains at the Red Bull Ring. We'll see you then.